You see, black women don't want to admit that they are the first teachers because their education is reflected in the state of the community. Hey, this is the antisocial socialite back at it again. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you are new to the channel and you have not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for, darling? Hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell, so when I get to run in this mouth, baby, you are in the loop. You see the title, you know what time it is. Black women like to be called queens, but not teacher. Now, this is a video that's been on my mind for a long time, but I haven't really had the opportunity to get around to it. But it is an important one that I need to do. And I was having a conversation. I'm actually in the middle of a conversation, and that's what kind of tipped me over the edge. You know, I've got to blame somebody because it's always someone else's fault, right? And this is not really going to be a long video. I say that every time, but you know, I'm lying. And basically, one of the things that really hurts my feelings when I have conversations with women online is about the fact that so many women just seem to fail to understand how important and significant their role as a mother is. The first decision you make as a good mother is ensuring a good father for your children. Because that decision, who you make the father of your kids, can completely make or break you, and not only you, but the future of your own children. Because we know that children that grow up in single parent households, they are more likely to go through substance abuse, they're more likely to be sexually active at an earlier age, they're more likely to become single parents and teen parents, they're more likely to fail at school. And when we look at the state of the black community, we can see that there's a huge problem with over-sexualization of young people, there's a huge problem with a lack of marriage, there's a huge problem with divorce, and a general lack of success. And because we do live in a matriarchy, because the black community is governed by generations of females, everybody is expected to pay reverence to women and call them queens. You know, it completely feminizes the whole community. Now, we don't have feminized women. We have women who love and relish the role of being the leaders, but we don't have masculine men. And as a result of that lack of masculine men, we end up having a community that is emotional, whimsical, very short-sighted. They can be erratic. The reason why you see so many men, you know, fighting and then pulling guns on each other, squaring up to each other over foolishness, not able to commit to going to school. The only time they seem to get their life in order is after they've already, you know, been to prison and things like that, or just general lack of success, is because, as I was saying to somebody just in a comment section, if a woman doesn't have the ability to be responsible for herself, how is she going to give to a child something she doesn't have in herself? You cannot give people what you don't have. And the mother is the first teacher. Whether women like it or not, women are the first teachers, because the child is learning more from what they observe their mother doing than anything else. You know, we have a huge issue in the black community of this concept of do as I say, not what I do. And once a child reaches maybe about 9 or 10, they start to realize the hypocrisy of their own parents. And bit by bit, as they lose respect for their parents, or in particular their mother, they take that attitude of disrespect and irreverence out into the world. And that's how they can end up getting into trouble, because the parent can no longer discipline the child, because the child is always going to say, you're trying to tell me to do the right thing, but I know you do the wrong things. And as much as the child shouldn't try to buck against their parents, because at the end of the day, you are still a dependent living in their home. They are an autonomous being with the ability to reason and understand. And as they carry that resentment towards their parent into adulthood, that feeling against authority, it transfers to other adults. So they go to school being disrespectful. They go out into the workplace being disrespectful. Even in the street, they are disrespectful, because at home they don't understand the concept of respecting adults, because the adults around them are not respectable. The children, as they observe the behaviors of their parents, they start to understand, oh, when I'm in a position of power, I can abuse that power. I can be reckless. I can be a hypocrite. And they're like, I can't wait to grow up so I can also be a hypocrite. And that's really sad. A lot of the time when you talk to women about, their reproductive rights and control, they always like to make this a conversation about blame. Who is the bigger person to blame when it comes on to the production of children? And as I said in previous videos, at the end of the day, the woman has higher degrees of reproductive control. She has the ability to have a child if the man doesn't want the child. She has the ability to terminate a child or give a child away even if the man wants the baby. So the reproductive rights and control are not equally shared between men and women. Even just, yesterday or so, I posted a video. We all know the video is fake, of this man producing paternity results for his so-called girlfriend. And the thing that hurts a lot of men is, although this woman has lied, or a woman who does such a thing lies about the father of her children, there are no repercussions for her for doing that. She has robbed that man of time. She's robbed that man of energy. She's completely destroyed his reality. And there are absolutely no consequences for her committing paternity fraud. If you commit any other type of fraud, there is a sentence. But you can pass off a child to a man that, is not his for years, and there are absolutely no repercussions for that. So when women try to make the argument that making a baby is 50-50 and it takes two, this is a degree of intellectual dishonesty. What women who say that want, whether they know it or not, is to basically say, I'm going to be sexually irresponsible, but I always know I have the safety net of sharing the blame with somebody else. Because you often have this thing where it's like, well, if the man didn't want a child, he should have worn a condom. But at the end of the day, this is what I said, and I'm saying it here for anybody who wants to come over and have this conversation. At the end of the day, it's your body that's getting stretched out. It's your body that is going to have the stretch marks. It's your chest that's going to start sagging. It's you who is going to end up, struggling to date because you've got to juggle working and raising kids. There's a higher chance that you're going to be in poverty because on average women work less, they earn less. So if you have to now cut back your hours in order to care for a child, or cut back your hours, to provide childcare, the child is often neglected, and there's an increased risk of the child growing up in poverty. If you're trying to date while being a parent, and obviously it's going to be harder for you to go out because going out requires you to arrange a babysitter, there's an increased risk you could bring a man into the home who is dangerous for your kids. It's just a bad example. If your children it doesn't even matter how many years, if the child sees you having lots of different friends, quote unquote, and every year or 6 months there's a new uncle in their life, this is damaging for a child's self-esteem. This is also something that's going to make children lose respect for you, because they understand that you don't know how to pick good men and you're not sexually responsible. So in addition to that, if you decide not to have your baby and you decide to go down the termination route, then there's the whole emotional and mental stress that comes with that. And if you give your child away, again, the video about the woman with the 7 kids, there's rumors going around that this one was also an experiment. The woman maybe only has 2 kids, but it doesn't even matter. Like, why as a mother are you making a video talking about, I'm so happy child, protective services took my 7 kids away, F them kids? Like, do your kids think that's funny? I don't know if I had a mother who made a video like this, if I would think that that was that funny. Because part of me would be thinking, do you really feel like this? You looked really convincing in this video. Maybe you really do feel like this about us. Maybe you wouldn't mind if CPS took us away for real. But okay, anything for clout. But the bottom line is this: if you give your child away, you don't know where those kids end up. In group homes, children are being assaulted, they're being abused. As I did a live stream about this because it was on my heart at the time. You know, just because we watch Long Lost Family, and most of these children, 9 times out of 10, I hardly watched any where the person comes back and said, I didn't go to a good family. But trust me, a significant number of children who go into the care system end up in some type of criminal activity, because sometimes they're being passed from home to home where they're being abused. Some of the homes that they go to, the people do not care about the children. They only take on the children because they're getting paid. Some of them are torturing the children, either the parents, quote unquote, or the children, the biological children of the families they go to are even abusing the kids that come into their care. And because these children come from troubled backgrounds, when they start to act out or rebel, or maybe their behavior changes, the family just acts like they don't know what's going on. I don't know why this child's like this. This child comes from a troubled background. We can't care for them anymore. And some of these children are going from foster home to foster home. By the time they get kicked out of the child care services at 18, they are completely lost in the world. And then they end up going into gangs, going into prostitution, and before you know it, they're getting into crime. Maybe they have an addiction, and now the cycle of poverty and abuse starts all over again. So just because we do hear of cases where children get taken into care and it ends up being good, there's no guarantee when you give that child away that they will go to a loving home. And so if you do decide to have your baby but give that child up for adoption, you will have to then deal with the guilt of knowing that you have a child out in the world, and that child also has a degree of an identity crisis. Now, I don't watch Long Lost Family that much, but sometimes when I go out, where I visit my friends and things, it's on, so I glimpse it. That's why I said every single one I've watched, the children went to good homes and they turned out well. That's one thing I noticed, as despite their beginnings in life, so many of them actually went on to have very successful lives. They even got married and had their own children. The only one I saw where the child did not have a good life was the child where he was a son who didn't know that the man that was raising him was not his biological father. And when the presenter asked him, did you have a good childhood? Would you have liked for your father to come and, you know, to know who your real father was? He said, no, I didn't have a good childhood. So the mother brought in a stepfather, but there were issues still there. The child stayed with their biological mother, but had a stepfather, and there were a number of issues. And when he was asked about his childhood, he just shook his head and said no. And what really hurt me about this episode of Long Lost Family was he said, what I really want is my biological dad to say, I'm proud of you. That is something I never heard any of the other children who went into foster homes say, because they went to loving homes where the child was just taken in 100% as their own child. But this woman not only got pregnant by a guy who then wasn't in the child's life, she then went on to get married to a man who didn't embrace her child. These are the kind of things that women who have children, or who are like, children are a blessing, birth control is bad for our bodies, it's dangerous, and, you know, abortion is murder. And I'm not minimizing these things. These things are reality. Children are a blessing, but they are a responsibility. Birth control can be dangerous, but there are a number of forms of birth control. You must be able to find one that's compatible with your body. And if you can't, you know, if you're not married, maybe you should be abstaining anyway, because it's not about the sex and the highs and the orgasms. It's actually about finding a partner who loves you and it will be committed to you. Because the first decision you make as a good mother is picking a good father for your children, because that decision impacts the entirety of their life. Because key milestones when it comes onto personality, when it comes onto mentality, are forged at particular stages of that child's development. So when that milestone is missed, sometimes it's very hard to recover. So you need that father to be in the child's life from day one. And the most stable environment is the environment of a husband and a wife who bring the children in deliberately, and they have a preparation made for those kids. But the first thing is the mother has to pick right. She has to go about getting into the relationship right, getting a man with a purpose, not just, oh, we're going to have some fun, we're having sex, oops, now there's a baby, now we've got to cobble together something. Because even back in the day when they used to do the whole shotgun wedding, you know, mum's cheating over here, dad's cheating over here, we paint a pretty picture, we take the portrait for over the fireplace, but behind closed doors there's just problems, because the only reason these two people, the man and the woman, got together is because she was pregnant. And I'm not advocating for that, but at least back in the day, people were more conscious about being personally responsible. Encouraging women to be personally responsible is one of the biggest forms of protection. And black women, you know, it's not a huge conversation here. Maybe it's because I don't have these conversations with my friends, but I know online it's becoming a big thing. British newspapers and, you know, black people in these newspapers are trying to run with these narratives over here now, you know, reporting that black women are not protected. But prevention is always better than cure. And a lot of the black women, they don't want to talk about how their role as a teacher is critical in the way the black community goes forward, because the sexual choices of black women determines the entire vibe of the community, because a community is made up of families. If the families are broken, the whole community is going to suffer. And the children are watching the example of the mother, and that's how they're going to grow up. If the mother is irresponsible, the children learn that behavior. If the mother is a hypocrite, they learn that behavior. Over time, it's like you learn to be unaccountable. You learn to play the victim. You learn to blame others for your failures. And when it comes on to boys growing up under this matriarchal system, this is exactly why they are effeminate. This is why they are not decisive. They are not leaders. They're not committed to anything. They are not emotionally stable, because they grow up observing how to be an adult as a woman. When they don't have fathers in the home, or strong fathers who are masculine leaders, they end up becoming toxic males. Toxic males are not aggressive, assertive, dominant, in control of their environment. A toxic male is a female in a man's body. When he's trying to suppress his natural drives, when he's trying to sit quietly as a little girl would, when he's having his testosterone reduced because he's not being able to build his muscle, to burn energy, to run around outside. That's when he becomes agitated, frustrated, and then it manifests in all these negative behaviors. So there are different ways a mother is a teacher. She could be an academic teacher, sitting down with her kids, doing the homework. She could be a teacher in terms of the way she conducts herself. As a mother, she's going to interact with men a certain way, and her children are going to either identify with her if it's a daughter, or they're going to observe the kind of women that are out there if it's a son. If the daughter sees the mother having a bedroom that looks like a revolving door, she's going to think it's acceptable to have a lot of different men and that they are disposable. And the son is going to think it's okay to just pull up on women with kids. It's okay to just date women with children, slide in, do your thing and go. He's going to think it's okay to treat women like trash because the women don't respect themselves. So when you hear these women trying to shame men about mommy issues, there are mommy issues because the mothers have failed in many instances. The daughter is going to identify with the mother as a female to a female, and the son is thinking this is what it's like to be with a woman. And because there's so many homes that don't have stability, they don't have healthy dynamics between the mother, and if the father is around the father, the children do not learn how to have healthy relationships themselves. I don't know how many brothers I've met who say, I don't want to get married because I've never seen a healthy marriage. And a man is more likely to think critically about his future relationships. And he's going to say, I don't want to be a failure to my children like my father was a failure to me. At the end of the day, the home is a safety net. Your parents are supposed to be a safety net from which you can explore the world, and if things go bad, you can come back to that base. So a son wanting to have a family, he may be discouraged from going out and trying to settle down because he knows, if I needed advice about how to be a good father or a good husband, who would I turn to? I have no one. I can't turn to my mother because she hasn't made the best choices. I can't turn to my mother because my mother is not a man. She doesn't know what it's like to be a male, and my father is not around. So this whole thing about queens and goddesses is so detrimental to the black community because, to be honest with you, with all due respect, you don't even need to do anything to be a queen. You literally just have to be born into the right family, and eventually you get to be the queen. Whether you're an effective queen or not is a different matter, but to get the title of queen is one thing. To be able to perform in the role is totally another. But black women need to focus on the role of being a teacher, and understanding their role as a teacher is more important than the title of a queen. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks so much for tuning in. Share this video with somebody who you think needs to hear it. Give it a big thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a big thumbs down. That's cool as well. But let's just help the channel to grow. Thank you so much. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.